All right, everybody, here we are for the final yard here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I'm Louis Sung. I'm joined by Eric Wiedeke. We will have more folks coming in. I know Ron Caniff is going to be coming in fairly soon. Believe me, we're going to get into all that. We have plenty of things we have to say about all this, and there are some questions that need to be answered, and we're going to need to get some answers real quick. We're going to go into all that, but first, I want to go ahead and mention that this show is brought to you by our official sponsors of the Final Yard postgame show, the Real Estate Shoppe.
The Final Yard is sponsored for the entire 2024 Dolphins season by the Real Estate Shoppe. Before you make a final decision about who should be your real estate broker, make sure you reach out to Amanda Martin and Javier Iglesias, the dynamic duo leading the Real Estate Shoppe, which combines market expertise with a passion for community and personalized service. They offer honest and professional real estate services, guiding buyers and sellers with integrity and a client-first approach. From pricing to negotiation, they ensure every step is smart and transparent. They operate in Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach. They understand the local markets like no one else. Their deep knowledge of these areas helps clients navigate the complicated nuances of home ownership in South Florida. So reach out to them. Again, it's the Real Estate Shoppe. You can find them on Instagram at the Fort Lauderdale Realtor, or give them a call at 954-268-9812. That's 954-268-9812. Before you make a final decision about real estate, reach out to the Real Estate Shoppe.
All right, so already the comments are coming in. A lot of people making fun of me, saying somehow this is Eric Spoelstra's fault. No, that's not what I'm saying. Like people love to miscontextualize things that get said all the time. I did not say that this was Eric Spoelstra's fault. I said that McDaniel learned the wrong lesson from Spoelstra. Like load management should not be a thing. And I can't wait to see the snap counts for this game. I really can't. I want to see how many plays Tyreek and Waddle were playing in this one. Not that that was the reason they lost. That wasn't the reason they lost. There was a lot of other reasons they lost this game. But I just want to see exactly what happened in this game as far as the snap counts, just to see if maybe if anything changed or if it just remained the same. So with that being said, Mike in West Palm Beach, sub 500, never want to see Thompson again. Not an NFL quarterback. I mean, listen, this is where my frustration is. We've been hearing all this time from Alfredo Arteaga, the 3 yards per carry. By the way, OnlyFins is at $3 a month. You go to discord.gg/OnlyFins. They're just as angry as Twitter right now, though. So maybe it's not better right now. 6 days out of the 7 days of the week, it's definitely better. Maybe today, not so much. But Cyril Curlin on Twitter, is Tim Boyle better than Skyler? Yeah. And that's just the really frustrating thing about it. And this is one of the concerns that you have to have looking forward with Mike McDaniel right now, because this sense of loyalty that he has to certain people. We all knew that this was going to be the case. We knew that it was going to be Skyler first. We knew that Skyler was going to get the first shot at it. And the reasons, the logistics of it makes sense. He's been here 3 years. He knows the offense as it normally is supposed to run better than anybody. I know that we're already seeing the tank for Arch Manning stuff. Listen, let me tell you something. Watch, because knowing the Dolphins' luck, Arch Manning turns out to be the only Manning brother that turns out to be a bust. Like it's going to happen if Miami drafts him. This is one of those situations where you're looking for any bright spots. Is there anything that Miami can look at? And the answer, truthfully, the answer is yes. And you know why the answer is yes? Here's the reason why. Tim Boyle came in for Skylar Thompson, and as bad as the results ultimately turned out, Tim Boyle moved the offense. He found people open. He found Jonnu Smith. He found D. Eskridge on the longest play of the game, right at the tail end there when the Seahawks defense had basically given up. But even after they had given up, they were still making plays. So I'm going to give Boyle credit for that one. He had Durham Smythe in the corner of the end zone. Smythe dropped it.
Yeah, that was a perfect throw. It really was. That was a tough catch, but a perfect throw.
You couldn't put it anywhere else and come away with the touchdown. And he just dropped it. So what more do you want from your third string quarterback? Tim Boyle is better than Skylar Thompson. And the scarier thing is that the emergency quarterback for this game, Tyler Huntley, might even be better than Boyle. We don't know. At least Huntley has made a Pro Bowl. You can't say that about Tim Boyle. So, but the problem is that Tyler Huntley changes the way this offense has to run. Huntley likes to run with the ball. Huntley is Lamar Jackson light, very light, very light. But it's that same mindset with him. He wants to run with the ball, which would change the entire philosophy of this offense. Mike McDaniel doesn't know how to change his mentality. He has that same new coach stench that every single new head coach comes in with. He's stubborn and he wants to prove that his way is right. And that's something he's either going to have to grow out of or he's going to get fired for it. And the question is Miami going to be patient enough to let him grow out of it? Or is he just going to keep slamming his head into the wall and hoping that he ends up right, and then he'll try on his next team, provided he ends up getting another shot? Because I'll tell you one thing, Mike McDaniel, if he gets fired by Miami anytime soon, he'll get a shot as an offensive coordinator. He will. Like, that's a guarantee. He will become somebody's offensive coordinator. But as a head coach, there's still so much to learn, man. We also welcome Mike Hernandez to the show. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to let everybody get their say in here. Mike, I'll go ahead and let you go first here.
I'm just going to pick up where you left off. I totally agree. I know as Miami fans, we got really excited the first 2 years with his offense, but I mean, it's the same things. The more you watch it, the more you see the same problems. I mean, he keeps going for it on fourth down. You're on your backup quarterback. You're on your third string quarterback. He still goes for it on fourth down. I looked up the team statistics for them on fourth down. And like, I know we're all mesmerized by the analytics nowadays, but I mean, they're 1-7 on 1 out of 7 on fourth down conversions. I mean, how many more statistics do you need to see that you're not going to convert it on fourth down, especially with all the injuries that you have? And then another thing, these guys, all of them have an extension. Mike McDaniel has an extension. He can't get the offense going. We extended Hill. Where's Tyreek Hill throughout this whole thing? We extended Waddle. Where's Waddle throughout this whole thing? Our quarterback who we extended, which I didn't necessarily agree with. I thought we should have just got him to play out one more year, kind of figure that whole thing out, get more of a resume under the belt. He's injured. Skylar Thompson, he's been developing, and I agree that he beat out Mike White during the preseason because Skylar Thompson looked a little bit better, but I still didn't think he looked like a competent quarterback. I think that was backed up by the fact that right before the first half, he had 2 different chances before the first half to just lob one in the end zone. He didn't do it. The first one, he throws a short pass, an intermediate pass over the middle. I think it got dropped or something. I don't even remember. There's so many just penalties and drops and just sloppy play by the offense in this game. So one of them was intermediate. It got dropped. Then he has a second chance after like some Seattle penalty where I think they had like a timeout and then the 12-man penalty on the field. He has another chance to lob it in the end zone. And there's no time on the clock. And all he has to do is just chuck one up there. It's a 50-50 shot, maybe 33% if you want to really break it down. But all you got to do is just lob one up in the end zone. Maybe your guy catches it or gets batted down or interception. It doesn't matter. There's no more time on the clock. He scrambles around, holds it, scrambles to the right, and then just gets sacked from behind, fumble, or whatever happened there. It was awful. I don't know. I lost my train of thought. There's just so many things that go bad in this game. And Mike McDaniel, he just doesn't, no matter what the circumstances are, he still wants to go for it. At some point, you have to play conservative football. You have a good defense on the other side. And if you just gave them some sort of competent offense, just something for them to work with so they're not on the field all the time and you're not shooting yourself in the foot with penalties. It's like every time, and they started at midfield like throughout the whole game, like near midfield the entire game. They had good starting field goal, good starting position to get points, and they just couldn't do it. It's just it's so frustrating. And I think exactly what you said, man. Either this guy has to change his ways and start coaching or situational play calling differently. Otherwise, he is going to get fired. But we extended him, so I have no idea how our quarterback or our franchise quarterback situation or our head coach situation is gonna pan out. But that's all I got right now.
Eric, let's hear from you, sir.
Okay. All right. I've been waiting for this. Okay.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Ron, you
Couple
going to be
things.
able to follow this?
Couple things. Wildest take here. I'm going to get my homer take off before I tear them down. And believe me, I will tear them down. First thing is they win this game with Tim Boyle as a starting quarterback from snap one. That is the absolute first thing. Second thing, Mike McDaniel does not believe they can run the ball 2 consecutive plays. They ran 28 offensive plays in the first half. 20 of them were pass plays with Skylar Thompson back there, who is the unironically might be the worst quarterback I've ever seen, notwithstanding Nathan Peterman. It's just a colossal failure by Mike McDaniel. They turned a game that was completely winnable into an unwinnable game because the defense was doing everything that they had to do. Granted, they had the blown coverage on the DK Metcalf long touchdown, but they played really well all game long. They got the ball at the 3-yard line off of an interception, 3 points. At some point, like Mike, and that last drive down at the goal line inside the 5. Yeah, let's make 5'9", 180 pound Devon Achane the goal line back. I liked the runs that Jalen Wright had in his opportunities. I think he should have gotten the ball inside the 5. And I see that people are saying no, they don't. Whatever. I absolutely believe that they do, because this is a Seattle team that I'm not convinced is good. A good team wins this game 49-3, because the Dolphins' offense was just that anemic. It was ironically the worst offense I think I've ever seen. You're looking at number one. You got Julian Hill committing three penalties for 25 yards. I don't know what that guy's doing here anymore. Really, he made a couple nice catch and runs when the game was out of hand, but he's not an NFL player, at least not a starting caliber NFL player. You're looking at Tyreek Hill. I know we want to say, where is Tyreek Hill? I mean, honestly,
Eric, I just want to pull this up really quickly. Kim Bocamper on CBS made a statement here, and I think it's very telling about just the state of the team in general, not just Tyreek and them. Like this tweet was put out by Barry Jackson, quoting Bocamper. And Dolphins closed for 1 for 12 on third down to 205 total yards. The future looks pretty bleak, says Bocamper. I'm seeing guys rotating in and out because they're tired. You should be able to play all day long in a game like this with pristine weather. It wasn't blistering hot. The sun was not beating down at 95-degree weather with humidity at 100% or anything like that. It was a perfect day for football, and people are still huffing and puffing every other play. At some point, that is conditioning, and that is where, once again, I come back to the load management thing. Y'all need to practice.
They were tired of watching Skylar Thompson is what made them so tired. It made me very tired too. Really, the biggest indictment, and it's crazy because the play calling was all-time bad out of McDaniel today. But the biggest indictment on McDaniel was that he thought Skylar Thompson was suitable to start in an NFL game. And I said in the pregame, this has the opportunity, if the Dolphins win, to set the tone to be, if you can beat Seattle, maybe you can beat Tennessee, maybe you can beat New England. Looking at things right now, I don't trust Mike McDaniel to come up with a competent game plan to beat anyone. I don't trust them to come up with a competent plan to beat the Carolina Panthers at this point. I've completely lost faith in Mike McDaniel, and I know that the offense is designed for Tua. But the crazy thing is, the offense didn't change, not even this much, from what's designed for Tua than what's designed for Skylar Thompson. It was the exact same offense that he runs with Tua. He just said, okay, Skylar, you can go do it. And I know that we say Skylar knows the offense, but does he? It didn't look like it to me, because the entire offensive organization was awful, really. The play calling with Boyle was fine for the situation. You're down at that point by 2-3 touchdowns. You have to throw the ball. I understand that. What's your excuse for the first 2.5 quarters when you're not sticking with the run, when you're ripping off 6, 7, 8 yards a pop, and you're like, you know what? Let's just not run it up the middle. Let's just not do it. And then these pitch plays to the outside on 3rd and short situations, no bueno. I'm done with them. Run the ball up the middle. Find something else. The love affair that we've had with Mike McDaniel has come to a swift halt. He's gonna have to put on his big boy pants, and I know that we've talked about him as a new coach. This is year 3. He's an experienced NFL head coach at this point. He needs to be better. This team had playoff aspirations. They had aspirations to win a playoff game. He needs to be an NFL head coach. Not, he's going to grow into it. He's in year 3. We can't give him that much time. And I know that we can talk about extensions. Extensions for coaches are fairy dust. They don't mean anything. He's not exempt from anything at the end of the season.
Ron, I want to give you a chance. I know I don't know if you can follow that, but let's hear from you, sir. What are you thinking right now?
Man, I'm just here so I don't get fined.
That's how you follow that.
I don't have much to say. I know I'm on a podcast, and usually I'm the most talkative dude here. I sadly thought this is how the game would go, and I'm still floored by what I saw. I was complaining all offseason about Skyler and the backup quarterback situation. We know that. We'll put that aside. But coming into this game, I spent like 2 days just trashing Skyler. And by Tuesday, I was just tired of it. I'm like, I'm just not going to say anything till the game starts. I know what it's going to look like. I agree with Eric. All the issues that McDaniel is having right now, and there's a lot, the biggest indictment on him is that he thought Skyler Thompson was a starting NFL quarterback. Skyler Thompson is not a rosterable quarterback, much less one that should be starting any games. He just needs to be gone. Boyle would have been better. We might have won this game with Boyle. I don't know. Maybe. We would have at least had a shot to win it with Boyle. We'd have had a shot to win it with Huntley, even though Huntley had only been here since Monday or Sunday.
I mean, Boyle's had been here less time.
Now, Boyle's been here a few weeks. We picked him up.
We
picked him. We put him on practice squad. I thought after we got rid of White as our third in our practice squad guy. So he'd been around. Right. He'd been around here a few weeks. I wish we had put Huntley on, but that would have been putting him on the roster itself. That's why they didn't do that. It's just bad all the way around, man. Defense held on as long as they could, but I'll be honest with you, a lot of that was Seattle was playing real bad too in the second half. They were just doing. Seattle was giving us every opportunity that they could to try and get back in that game, and we just couldn't even manage to. I won't say not get close. We did get inside the 5 a few times. Kicked a field goal once, came away with nothing the second time. That was the red zone. What little red zone opportunities we had, we were just so bad. So bad. Yeah, I mean, Boyle did okay in his, not great. Skyler Thompson they cannot. I mean, our next 4 opponents have a combined 3 wins total. And I don't feel confident we're going to beat any of them at this point. So I don't know what they do. Start Boyle. Go ahead and just put Huntley in. It can't be Skyler Thompson. There's just no way. That's just you're wanting to lose a game to do that.
I want to point out, first of all, I'm very upset on a personal level because I had 3 out of 4 on Prize Picks done, and one of those was Derrick Henry's rushing attempts. The other one was Jonathan Taylor getting a touchdown. The only thing they needed was to kick one more field goal, and I would have won $200. So I could have bought a new TV so that I could destroy the one I had here at Anger. I could have done that, but that's why I didn't destroy the TV, because I didn't have the money to do it. Thank you, Prize Picks, thank you, Mike McDaniel, for not letting Sanders kick a field goal. My real situation here, just the level of upset that I have is, once again, it's the same thing. I said it earlier. Every new head coach seems to have this, I am right, and I will I will die on this hill mindset rather than admit, you know what, I was wrong. And in the case, because people are mentioning Chris Grier. Yeah, Chris Grier, he's also. But first of all, I'm going to say this. I'm not even saying that Chris Grier. It's so hard to say he deserves to be fired, because literally during this offseason, we were praising him for the offense and the scheme that he had managed to put together. We were just kind of nitpicking some pieces on the roster, and now we're calling for his head, just like we're calling for McDaniel's head. It's very hard to make that distinction 3 weeks in, because all of a sudden we hate the roster. We loved it when the season started, and now we hate it. But hold on. Let me finish. I will not let them off the hook for this one thing, because the tweet is going around. The video is being circulated around the internet right now. You guys are more worried about this than we are. That quote should haunt Grier for the rest of his freaking life. Why do you think fans are worried about what we're looking at? Not only did you not invest in the offensive line, particularly the interior, not only did you not do that, you filled it with people who are regularly injured. Armstead went out with an eye injury. I get it. That's a freak accident. He'll probably be back next week because he got poked in the eye and he's probably bleeding or something. I don't know. Like maybe he'll wear an eye patch on next Sunday. I don't know. Or it's Monday Night Football, right? It's Monday Night Football next week.
Who cares? Who cares?
The sake of accuracy, man.
I do not.
Next week is Monday night.
The Dolphins and Monday night never mix well. I'm already dreading that.
It's a primetime game. Everybody's watching. They can't live up to the pressure. That's just how it goes.
Well, anyway, Armstead will be back next week, I'm sure, because it was an eye injury. It's not something that's going to nag him. I'm sure maybe he'll wear an eye patch the first 2 weeks and then he'll be back. But then you have at the left guard position, you have Robert Jones, and then in center you have Aaron Brewer is the only really bright spot right now besides Armstead himself. Liam Eichenberg, listen, I don't care anymore what Coach Eric says. I respect the hell out of him. But Eichenberg is not talented enough. He's not good enough, man. He's not. Especially if you have anybody other than Tua out there who gets the ball out in 2 seconds or less. The same goes for Austin Jackson. He's not good enough. He's just not. And then I was rooting at that point for him to stay out and let Lamb play right tackle, just so I could see what Patrick Paul could do on one snap at left tackle. And for what it's worth, that one snap, I was curious. I wanted to see. I saw Paul shoving some dude 10 steps back. So again, his physical prowess means a lot. So maybe we'll look back on that one play and it'll be like, okay, well, we can nitpick this, and this. But just that one play, he already looked like one of the better guys out there. Austin Jackson is not good enough. Robert Jones, not good enough. Liam Eichenberg, not good enough. I don't care if the scheme hides what they don't do well. I don't care if they looked better than it looked on television. They are not good enough to hold down an offensive line week in and week out. You need actual talent at the position of offensive line. It doesn't matter how much you mask deficiencies. The reason that you have to mask them is because they are deficient. And you know it. And guess who else knows it? The opponents. The Seahawks didn't blitz for the most part. They sent 4, maybe 5 guys all game long, and they were just absolutely roasting Skylar Thompson alive the whole game because they knew they could get him. Because they knew eventually if he didn't get the ball out in 2 seconds flat, somebody was going to break down and he was going to just fall to the floor. It's not good enough. I don't care. Again, not to disrespect Coach Eric. I love the guy. But they're not good enough. And that is something that, again, it needs to haunt Chris Grier the rest of his life. You guys are more worried about it than we are. Are you worried now? Are you worried now? And to Ron's point, the backup quarterback situation, that was also something they didn't really decide to address. They figured that Mike White and Skylar Thompson were good enough. That's not enough. It's not good enough.
You know, though, I will say, first thing is, when has Skylar Thompson ever gotten the ball out in 2 seconds in his entire life? I swear to God, the guy is like reading newspapers back there. He's so blissfully unaware of everything that is going on.
We thought Ryan
You know,
Tannehill had bad pocket presence.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
No, bro, he has nothing on Skylar Thompson. Skylar Thompson is just, I mean, my God, he can't see. Yeah, I'm just gonna stop before I say something.
Don't get us
He just can't
demonetized,
see.
Eric.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, the offensive line was bad overall, but I mean, Skylar didn't make it any better. Yeah, you know. Really, again, this game falls on Mike McDaniel to me, and I know that we can talk about Greer, and I'm happy to talk about Greer actually, because of things like the offensive line, because of things like the backup quarterback situation, and because of the fact that ultimately, you know, and I know that we said that and I know that, you know, Lewis, and you've got a point when you say, yes, we did like the offense in the offseason and this and that, but the thing is, as new information comes in, we process the information, we synthesize it, we understand, oh, wait, maybe the roster isn't as good as we thought. And I think that that's exactly the conclusion that we're coming to. This team is not as good as we thought it was. The defense is probably as advertised. Aside from being toasted by DK Metcalf, and that was Javon Holland, that was not Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey played very good coverage today. You know, all the talks about him being washed the first 2 weeks, he played well today. But the offense is just inexcusable. You've got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and their snap counts are going to look bad because they didn't play in the entire fourth quarter. Tyreek Hill was already cozying up to Tyler Huntley because he knows that's who his quarterback is going to be next Monday night.
I hope.
You know, yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see about that. I think it's probably going to be an open competition between him and Boyle.
Wow, there's nothing like an open competition between 3 would-be practice squad quarterbacks to see who's going to start a game.
Look, I'm
to
saying
give you confidence for the season.
I'm saying right now, the most talented quarterback on the roster besides Tua is Tyler Huntley, and it's not close. But the good news is, go ahead.
You know, go ahead. Well, I was going to say the Panthers and the Giants won today. So the Dolphins, you know, are there any 0-3 teams remaining at this point?
I don't know, actually.
Listen,
yeah, there
you're
is.
Talking about getting the first overall pick.
Tennessee. So we'll make sure Tennessee gets their win next week, probably. Tennessee's 0-3.
The first overall pick to pick who? A quarterback? Not happening. Like, listen, I'll say this. We're still acting like Tua may not come back. Tua's like, you really think that Tua would bother to make the trip if he decided he was going to retire?
It may not be up to him, Lewis. I mean, we can get in that conversation another time, but may not.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot.
The
there's a lot
that force him to retire. No, can they do
there's
that?
There's a lot that can happen in 4 weeks. There's a lot that can happen in 4 weeks with this situation.
Tua's going to come back thinking that he can be the savior of this season.
He still has to talk to more neurologists. We don't know what those conversations are going to be like. And again, it's less about Tua overall as a player. It's less about him, and it's just more about this entire. Unfortunately, I feel like Tua is kind of becoming collateral damage of the Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel fiasco at the moment, where, and I'll be honest with you guys, I'm thinking honestly, because if you do get rid of Chris Greer and you get rid of Mike McDaniel, you're getting rid of likely the only offense that Tua has had success in at the NFL level. And I know that it's been really bad. He's been on 2 extremes of the spectrum. Really good offense for him, really bad offense for him. But I do think that if you're getting rid of Mike McDaniel and Chris Greer, and it's a possibility, not there yet. Obviously, we're 3 weeks in. If they run for 250 next Monday night, I'd be more than shocked. But if they run for 250 next Monday night, you know, anything can happen. But those guys are not exempt from losing their jobs at the end of the season. And if it does happen, I think that whoever the new GM or coaches should be able to have the say on who they want their quarterback to be. And that's just how I feel about that. It's less about Tua overall, more about the overall situation.
But
they're going to have to do a competition. There's no way, because look at the contract he just signed. The only, like, if they lose McDaniel and Greer because they decided that they were not good enough and they're going to fire him, then at that point, if I were Tua, I would just take my money and go home, because knowing that the other coach decided that he doesn't want me, he doesn't want to go through that again. I'm sure he doesn't. And so, quite frankly, at that point, I would say, you know what? I got my payday. I'll just leave and you guys can go suffer alone. Like that's what I would do, truthfully, if I end up losing McDaniel and Greer, because like you mentioned, Eric, the only offense that this offense is designed specifically for Tua. It is his offense. It is built for him. And to have to compete with a rookie after 1 year after signing his massive contract, I wouldn't, honestly, I'm not, with all the concussions I've dealt with, at that point, I would say, you know what? I'm done. That's when I would say enough's enough, because now not only, like, hell, you're doing the team a favor at that point. You're saying, you know what? You guys don't want me. Let's come to a settlement. You get me my money. You guys get your cap space back. Y'all have fun. That's what I would do, truthfully, if I were Tua. But
then we're talking about how Stephen Ross wants to build his organization and his football organization and his team, because Stephen Ross always likes to carry over someone from the previous regime, some names from the previous regime. Like, oh man, this goes back so long. I can't even remember like the most recent examples, but let's just say with Ryan Tannehill, we got rid of Joe Philbin. We got Adam Gase. We just carry over Ryan Tannehill from Joe Philbin to Adam Gase. Then we get Brian. Then we finally get rid of Ryan Tannehill. We got Tua. We carry over Tua from Brian Flores' regime into Mike McDaniel regime. Chris Greer has been here through multiple head coaches. Man, there's just my mind just goes blank sometimes, because like I have a short attention span and I just want to rant. But my general thing is that Steve Ross never really cleans house. And also, like Brian Flores' regime, we carried over Josh Boyer from Brian Flores to Mike McDaniel regime, when apparently Mike McDaniel wanted Vic Fangio. Then we finally get Vic Fangio. Then we get rid of him. And it's just like we never clean house the way we should. Mike, I doubt that we're going to do it with Tua as well.
But everybody always talks about that. Let's clean house.
I'm not saying we should. I'm just saying if we did get rid of McDaniel and Greer, and then we're going to keep the quarterback, we might as well just do it over. But Stephen Ross is getting older. He might not want to even do that at all.
Okay. Exactly. But that's just it. Even if he decided he wanted to go scorched earth, which, by the way, for everybody in the comments, that's not what we're saying is going to happen, or I'm not even saying that's what should happen. But hypothetically speaking, if he decided to go scorched earth, Tua's gone, McDaniel's gone, Greer's gone. He's literally that one scene from The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and he's just standing there in the room by himself. Like, do you trust him to rebuild that room? With who? Who are you getting to be the new GM, the new head coach, the new quarterback? You gonna start over from scratch?
We're not. I'm sorry. This is the Tannehill argument all over again. I'm not doing but who's next? But who's after this? We have to learn when it is time to move on, and it's not time at that point. McDaniel did look better with Tim Boyle, and there is a chance that things get better. But I think
we're having almost an off-season conversation after week 3.
Yeah, this is this
conversation for another time. Right now, we need to talk about, we got 4 games coming up against probably maybe 4 of the worst teams in the NFL, and we got to figure out how to manufacture a few wins, because if Tua is coming back, maybe things look up. If Tua is not going to come back this year, then maybe they have to make like a real type of move. That's really what we need to figure out, how they're going to make that happen versus what are we going to do after Tua, after McDaniel? I mean, we're way
to
early on
I'm
all
not-
this.
We need to
I
start the most
mean-
competent quarterback, which I like Tim Boyle a lot. We need to lean on our defense, run the ball, play conservative, not going for it on every fourth down situation that he likes to do. We just need to punt it a little bit more. Just lean on the run, lean on the ground game, do some play action, do some rollouts. I mean, I think Boyle and Skyler have some mobility. I like Boyle a little bit better, which is why we cut Mike White, and everybody was asking why did they cut Mike White for a guy who statistically during the regular season is worse. But
Honestly,
Tim
I'm bringing
Boyle
Mike
had
White
a
back
better
today.
preseason than Mike White did.
I'm bringing Mike White back today.
I think Mike White would probably do better in game than
I don't.
Oh,
to be
what
honest,
we're
I
seeing
don't
from
believe in
Skylar
any of
Thompson.
them. I don't believe in any of them. I think
Yeah.
we should get Ryan Tannehill, and I know he doesn't fit the scheme, but he has a better
Tannehill will not
resume.
come here.
He lives
well,
in
here's what I'm-
Colorado. Get him.
What I'm
Call
saying
him.
is this is what I
Just
was
call him.
scared
Just give him
about.
a phone call. If he
What
says no, he says
exactly
no,
what
but
I was
call him.
scared about is what exactly is freaking happening. That there wouldn't be an opportunity soon enough to make a call on what's really going to happen with Tua. So we're going to screw around for too many games where there's not going to be an opportunity to fix it because we're going to be down too many games and no one's going to want to come here and deal with the situation. Like they need to figure out what's going on with Tua by the one more game. That's it. The Tennessee game. And we can't wait around another 3 weeks / 2 more games to week 8 to figure out what's going on with this, or you're just throwing away the season. And I just don't think, as bad as they look, they should be doing that. And that's what I was so concerned about with this. Is I think it's going to be obvious they're going to end up. The NFL is not going to approve Tua to come back. They're just not going to take that liability, and their independent neurologists can put the kibosh on him coming back, period, end of story. They certainly can. They probably will. And I think Miami needs to proceed thinking that way and not screwing around with all these practice squad quarterbacks and try and figure out a real solution. Tannehill would come here if he knew he was going to be the starter the rest of the season. He would.
The problem with that is in that world, we do need to be having off-season conversations right now because the season is over.
It's not over though. It's not over if you we are getting Tannehill. He's the star of the rest of the year. It doesn't make the season.
No, he doesn't. He just needs to take us
right
to
now.
a point where Tua gets back. Just get us 50-50.
He's not going to come here for waiting for Tua to come back. Like that's the point Lewis is making.
Okay, or we just get some better quarterback play. If we have better offensive play calling, we could probably go 50-50. We probably could have won this game if we just had better offensive play calling.
The problem with that is everyone said this is what the Dolphins have to do. Everyone knew what the game plan needed to be. Everyone except for Mike McDaniel. And we're proceeding as if he's going to have some epiphany that we've been waiting on him to have. And I just don't know if it's going to come. I just don't know.
I'm leaning towards no because he does it every week.
This isn't the first, this isn't this new concept that everyone's introducing. This has been the talk around the team for a good long time now. And I just, if he hasn't gotten the message at this point, I don't know if he's going to. I hope he does. I like Mike McDaniel as a person. I want him to succeed, but I haven't seen evidence that leads me to believe that he will have that epiphany. I just haven't seen that evidence. When I do see that evidence, I'll change my mind happily. It just hasn't occurred yet.
This is what
I'm sorry. Can I finish one more thing? Because I wrote all this down. I wrote down a bunch of Mike McDaniel questionable calls throughout the game, and I just want to read them because I just took the time to write it down.
We all watched the game, bro, but go ahead.
Yeah, I know. Okay. So first quarter, 2nd and 1, McDaniel gets fancy and calls for a fancy pass instead of handing it up the middle. Fins try up the middle on 3rd and 1. The Seahawks stuff it, and then the Fins miss a 58-yard field goal. Losing by 10.
Didn't let me get my money.
Yeah. And then losing by 10, 2nd and 1 at midfield. McDaniel calls for an outside run and pitch, loses 3 yards. Then on 3rd and 4, the play is late coming in. Ball is hiked, and Skylar Thompson gets hit and loses the ball. Fins recover and punt. Then Another too many penalties, no discipline, problem with this team. McDaniel's too loose with the team and the players. Players and coach have gotten extensions or are looking for them. Holland, in parentheses, aren't playing well. Tyreek gets no sort of scolding by the organization or coach for a week 2 police incident. No accountability, no consequences. Creates sloppy football play. Second quarter, 3rd and 13. Hill bubble screen on a 3rd and 13. It gets dropped. Third quarter, Skylar Thompson gets hurt. Tim Boyle steps in. McDaniel still goes for it on 4th down with a third string QB. Fourth quarter, on the goal line. Fins are down by 10, but McDaniel goes for it, doesn't convert. Why not kick the field goal and try a touchdown later if you're already down by 10 and you need 2 scores anyway? There you go. Did we lose Lewis?
No, I did not. I just tuned. I'll be honest with you, man. I tuned out, and the reason I tuned out is because I know all that stuff already. That's exactly why we're screaming at McDaniel as it is right now. All I'm gonna say, we're gonna get ready to actually close this out unless anybody has any final thoughts, and I'm gonna make this my last thoughts. The reason that, like, for all the talk about will they force Tua to retire, there is no rule by the NFL Players Association or otherwise that the league can force Tua to retire. If they play this game where the independent doctors just decide not to clear Tua and they don't have any reasoning other than NFL PR, you can be damn sure that Tua will take that to court. Seriously, he will. Because at that point, they're messing with his money. Tua wants to come back. He wants to play. He's not leaving. And if they try to pressure him into leaving, that is going to leave a bigger stain than Tua ending up getting hurt somewhere along the line again. Because then the NFL is saying, we don't care what you, the player, decides what you want to do with yourself. We're going to force you out. And that's going to be even worse because then the other players who are also in the league are going to look at them and say, you just took away our rights as players to say what we want to do with our own careers. That's like saying that so-and-so, you are too old. We're going to force you to retire now. That's not how that works.
They took our jobs.
They can't do it. They can't do it. If you want to say that the NFL is in a catch-22, fine. But in the truth of the matter is, it's less dangerous for the shield, as it were, to let Tua go ahead and make his own decision about playing. And it seems to me that Tua has already made that decision. And if they decide they want to try and play this game where, again, the neurologist, I keep doing this with the independent neurologist. If they're truly independent, then they have to look Tua in the eye and say, listen, you're at risk of X, Y, and Z, but you can play if you want to. And Tua has to make the decision for himself. And at that point, it's between Tua and the Dolphins, not to the NFL. And if the NFL tries to step in and say that we're going to take away your rights as a player, whether you get to play or not, because we don't want to look bad, that's going to look worse than letting Tua get hurt again. That's all I'm going to say on that.
Players get hurt all the time and they come back from injury. I know the concussion thing's a sensitive subject because of all the CTE stuff that, over the years that have happened. But, it's his body. It's his choice. If he's able to play and he's got medical clearance to come back and play, he should play. It's not up to anybody. It shouldn't be up to anybody else but him.
Yeah, we'll see what the medical clearance looks like.
They already cleared him to fly. He was already hanging around the players right after the game he got hurt in. Like, you're going to tell me after a month that he's still not cleared to play after the concussion?
Getting cleared to do those things is a lot different than getting cleared to play football. I'll just say that those are two different things. I think we can all acknowledge that. Granted, I think there's a better chance that he comes back than he doesn't. But there is the maybe, and I think we have to account for the maybe 5-10% chance that something changes that we can't foresee over the next 3 weeks, because what is the experience of following the Dolphins other than the worst possible thing happening all the time? And we have to be honest with ourselves and account for that.
If that happens, then this hypothetical worst case scenario that you're talking about, if that happens, then the Tequesta tribe truly has cursed the Dolphins, and Hard Rock Stadium needs to be nuked. For real. Like, go build a stadium somewhere else.
Oh man.
Yep.
I had an inkling. I didn't know the season was going to go this bad, but I did right when Tyreek Hill made the comment. It was like, "Oh, this is the best team I've ever been on," and I know he speaks in hyperbole, and I know he's a troll. But when we were writing our season predictions, I'm like, I don't think this team isn't going to be as good as it was last year. I think last year, before the injuries hit, in theory, could have been a Super Bowl potential roster. But you don't have that this year. And anybody who thought it was just as good as last year, especially on the offensive side, especially with that offensive line, is fooling themselves. I thought the defense was still going to be good, which it still looks like. It looks like a competent defense, but the NFL is figuring out Mike McDaniel, and he doesn't have answers for what his second move is. And that's the problem with the offense, is that like when his like if the NFL, if the fastest team in the NFL was always guaranteed to win, then every roster on the NFL would be built with track stars. It's easy to find speed, but you need a combination. When speed doesn't work, you need to go a different route. You got to get physical. You got to get intermediate. You can't just be hitting home run balls and big plays on the with the runs to the outside all the time. Every football coach would love to do that, but they just can't do it. You have to have multiple moves and multiple hands. And Mike McDaniel, once his first card is played, he doesn't have another card to play, and that's on him. I know the offensive line gets injured, but I think the main reason is just Mike McDaniel. And I like the guy, I really do, but he's proven time and time again. And I'm not just saying because it's bad. I've seen it coming this way, that he needs to have answers. And I'm done.
One last thought. I'm slowly coming around to it. The best team of the McDaniel era was 2022. You went 1-1 versus Buffalo. You nearly beat him with Skylar Thompson at quarterback. Who knows what happens if Tua was healthy at that in that game, in the wild card there. That's the results speak for themselves. That's the best team of the McDaniel era so far. But that's my last thought there.
Well, the teams have adjusted to the offense, and that's why, again, you need to be willing to adjust your offense to what the other team is doing. And I'm going to be truthful about this. Again, I come back to the arrogance, the quote by Chris Greer. You're more worried about it than we are. If you want to change the way that your offense functions, if you want to change and play different cards, as Mike puts it, you have to have the right cards to play. And if you want to be a physical, smash mouth football team for any length of time, you need physical, smash mouth players. And guess what? I'm going to say it again. Liam Eichenberg is not good enough. Austin Jackson is not good enough. Robert Jones is not good enough. They can't do it. They don't have the bodies. They cannot change the way that they run this offense. It's all they have. They built this offense on one mentality. Tua has to be the quarterback. Tyreek has to be out there. Waddle has to be out there. Or if they're not, you better darn well have somebody who can actually do the job, because Braxton Berrios ain't it. Once again, by the way, 6.5 was the over on Braxton Berrios. I hit the under. 0 for the third week in a row. He should not be here. Like, I had to make a joke about it on the punt return. Like, oh my God, he did a thing. He did a thing. Congratulations. Give the man his paycheck. They don't have another card to play. You're more worried about it than we are. That's the quote.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking about that during the whole game too. I don't know what else to say.
And
going
around
in circles now.
Protocol. Okay, so it wasn't an eye injury; it was a head injury. You know what? It's funny. Hussam in the Dolphins chat mentioned that Dolphins need to be investigated because all these phony baloney evaluations on injuries, this is going to come back to bite them. Because we went from Teron Armstead got his eye poked out to he's in the concussion protocol. Skylar Thompson had a chest or a shoulder injury or something along those lines, and he collapsed like a cheap suit after somebody shoved him very lightly to the ground. Did he get concussed and we didn't know it? That's what we're going to find out, I guess. So if that is the case, though, then not only is Miami going to get fined, they're going to lose draft picks. That, quite frankly, they I don't know. Maybe that's when they will start forcing things to happen, because at that point the NFL is just being lied to by the Dolphins.
Yeah,
now,
I don't know if you guys noticed, but Skylar was also on the ground the play before that too, and then he gestured towards the sideline. It looked like he was going to go off the sidelines, and then the camera cut to something else, and then we had a play where he went down again. So I'm not sure what it was.
We can speculate all we want. We can't because it would be irresponsible of us to just conclude that yes, the Dolphins were lying, because that's just not smart on our part. So we won't do that. But we can speculate all we want. We're gonna go ahead and call this here. It's been over an hour. And Ron said that he was going to be here for half an hour and then bail. But I mean, he stuck around. I appreciate him for doing that. And we still went almost a full hour. This is the reality of the Miami Dolphins situation right now. This is the final thing before I call it right here. Nobody else is going to talk. I'm going to have the final word. It's my show. This team is going to fail, or it's going to succeed, on Mike McDaniel realizing that, guess what? What I'm doing isn't working. And he has to admit that he was wrong. He has to admit that he made the wrong call. He has to admit that he needs to change things and not just give us lip service, because he's been giving us lip service for 2 years. Is this the year that he's going to run the ball more? He said it twice he was going to do it. He hasn't done it once. It's still been throw, because for better or worse, that is his offense. His offense is predicated on throwing the football. I still believe in my heart of hearts that he resented the fact that he had to become the run game coordinator for the 49ers just to be able to make a name for himself in some way. And now that he's the head guy, he wants to prove that he can do all the things that Shanahan did and then some. He doesn't like being pinned to the run game. He hates it. He despises it. He resents it. That's my personal theory, my speculation. If anybody asked him, I'm sure he would deny it. And I could be talking out of my rear end. But based on the way that he acts, the way that he does things, the way that he basically lies on camera saying that, oh, I'm going to change, I'm going to do the run game, and then he doesn't do it. He can't help himself. He hates the run game. He doesn't like that he had to be known as that guy, the run game specialist. He wants to throw the ball. And he's going to do it come hell or high water. That's going to be it for this show. We will see you all next week. Tuesday, of course, we're going to have Pulse of Fins Nation, and we'll probably follow up on a lot more of the stuff that we talked about in this show. I need to text Duke because I haven't heard from him in 2 weeks. I'm starting to get worried here. We're gonna have our more discussion on Pulse. I'm sure that Coach Eric and Hussam will have scouting combine this week as well. And then come Monday evening, we will have pregame. We will have postgame. We will have all those things, and we will see what happens. So thank you all so much for joining us. Chat, you were very active. Thank you very much for interacting with us. We appreciate you and everything that you do to support the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Like, comment, subscribe, do all of those things. Help us with the YouTube algorithm, because that's how they acknowledge that we exist. And we want to do more for you guys. So any support that you guys can offer, it helps. All right. We will see you all next week.